Wishes. Boy, you were summoned here because of a complaint you made against the god who granted you wishes. You state he did something that went against your wishes. A blonde-haired woman, who could only be described as a goddess, said while standing before me. She had on silver armor. I didn't think she was a goddess, but more like a worker to the gods. Although she did look godly. I wonder if Zeus slept with her. Yes, my client here had his mind tampered with. The god who granted his wishes had tempered with his memory. This goes against his wish to travel across other verses. How would he do so, if to travel to another verse he needs to collect a ticket by doing a said task? Some tasks require him to defeat a few people, such as Saitama. How would we know how to locate the guy if he doesn't even know where he is? If this isn't setting my client up for failure, then what is? A red-haired man wearing a suit said while standing next to me. I was about to speak when he appeared, causing me to jump lightly. Loki. Odin's eyes grew narrowed seeing Loki appearing, the god of mischief. They used to be like brothers, but once Loki's children stepped out of line, well, they became enemies. List the wishes the boy made, Zeus said with a frown. Wish number 1 was a unique one. The god allowed for his first wish to allow the boy to take over the avatar of Ain's Ulgaun and make almost any changes he wanted to it, while also allowing him the power to change the guild to some degree. This wish pretty much allowed him to gain the benefit of playing the game, without the need to do so, the blonde-haired woman said while looking at a paper in her hands, which I just only noticed. A cheap move done by a lesser god, showing he was trying to save his divinity, Loki said with a nod of his head. His second wish. It was a unique one, as he wanted a way to multiply death with death to birth life. She said with a slightly weird look. Another cheap wish, a lesser god could have easily granted, Loki said with another nod of his head. The third wish was for the NPC and himself to no longer have their game limitation, allowing them to level up past level 100, while also picking up new skills and abilities. The side effect of this is, the greater the NPC or himself level is, the easier the skills would be to learn, or even create. She said, to which Loki smirked as he didn't need to say anything to that. The fourth wish was to travel the multiverse. This wish was granted using the dimensional gap as a way to go from verse to verse, with tickets acting as the gateway to each verse. To get more tickets, he would need to know the verse so he could plan ahead, but his knowledge of every plot he had ever watched had been erased with fragments of them popping up. She said with a weird look as the god who made these wishes was surely going to die. So, we have a cheap wish-granting god, who is unwilling to follow the rules, but is going out of the way to do something dirty. All of these wishes were simple, a lesser god like him should have only used about 5% of his divinity to grant these wishes. Loki said with a smirk. His last wish was for an ability known as the Almighty to fuse with his job class and racial classes, creating a new skill which he calls Death's Almighty. She said with a weird look, since the skill wasn't perfectly recreated, it didn't cost that much divinity, at most this god used 10% of his divinity in granting the 5 wishes. My client here demands 2 extra wishes, along with his mind returned to the way it should be, and to add a cherry on top, the need for tickets for him to travel from verse to verse to be removed, Loki said, causing me to blink. When did I demand that? I couldn't even speak thanks to Loki doing something to me. That lesser god had even lied to him about him not being able to grant a few wishes, which he could fully do. I demand justice. Loki said with a grin. Enough with the act. Why are you playing this game? Why would you take up such interest in this boy? Odin asked with his one eye narrowed. I also wanted to know the answer to that. What do you mean? I just wanted justice. If all gods start acting the same way that lesser god is acting, wouldn't this lead to new rules being born? Loki asked, causing the air to pause lightly, as clearly no one wanted that. I vote for the lesser god to grant the 2 wishes, even if it costs his life, Zeus said calmly. He was already bugged by the rules. He looked forward to hanging out with the mortals. Unlike most gods, Zeus truly loved the mortals. Spending time with them, talking about the beauty of life. So it displeased him greatly that a new rule could be born that would force him or make it harder for him to be with the mortals he loved so deeply. Same, Shiva said with an uninterested look. Clearly he wouldn't be here if the concern didn't risk the birth of a new law. Well, everyone agreed with Zeus, although Odin wasn't sure since Loki was a part of this. This new Loki wasn't the same as in the past. Ever since he punished Loki's children who had the risk of slaughtering the gods, Loki has begun to change. This matter had no right or wrong, Odin acted for the sake of the gods, and Loki was a parent. How would you like watching your child chained up, all freedom and rights taken from it when your son had done nothing to deserve the punishment just yet? Well, with the gods coming to one agreement, the god who had granted my wish was summoned. To say the least, the god was shocked to find himself standing before the kings of the gods. A lesser god like him wasn't worthy of ever seeing such mighty beings. But if he did see them, it was most likely not a good thing, so he was horrified. That's even more so when he saw me. Boy, state your 2 wishes, Zeus said, not even bothering to acknowledge the lesser god's existence. With Zeus's words, I found myself able to speak. I looked at Loki with unease, but Loki just gave me a playful look. I wish for instant death, I said lightly, causing all of the gods' eyes to twitch. Seeing this, I realized that ability was a bit too overpowered even for them to grant. I wish for it to be fused with my racial and job classes, I said, to which Zeus nodded while pointing his finger at the lesser god. White lightning shot from his finger, hitting the lesser god, and with a pained scream, the lesser god's divinity was forcefully taken to grant my wish. The next wish can't be too overpowered, Zeus said, to which I closed my eyes to think for some time. The next wish can't be a power. It would be easier for me to create and learn skills as I grow stronger, so my next wish should be around the concept of information. How about I wish for the knowledge of someone? I need knowledge of someone who has the knowledge to do with conceptual beings, and creating spells and other such things. I thought while my mind fell on Rimuru. No, most of his knowledge is thanks to Seal. Anos. That guy could create spells on the spot, could grab the concept of others, and could even cast spells with his concept after his body and soul were destroyed. I heard that even the most basic spell he cast could target the concept of someone. I could wish for luck. I thought while biting my thumb, wondering what was the best move right now. I wish to have all of Anos' knowledge and experience, I said lightly, to which the air seemed to go quiet for a second. Grant the wish, Loki said with a smile. The reason they hesitated was simple, this wish would cost the god's life. But as Zeus said, the wish would be granted even at the cost of the god's life. Knowledge and experience didn't cost as much compared to abilities, but still, this would cost the god's life. The god's body exploded into divinity, which all entered my body. Before I could even react, a sea of knowledge filled my head. I fell into the abyss known as magic. I saw everything through Anos' eyes, things that should have been complex for me turning into simple stuff as I could feel how Anos thought, how he saw problems and broke them apart. I didn't know how long it took me to go through years of knowledge, learning everything there was to learn, before I opened my eyes and found myself back in the forest. Wow, I said in amazement, looking around. I had the same pair of eyes, but my mind was completely different right now. Be it the magic I held or the fact my knowledge of everything I watched was back. Everything seemed different now. 11 comments 0 vote. Wise king of the forest. How long was I gone? I asked Toph, who had a confused look. You were gone for a few minutes. Did something happen? Toph asked, to which I shook my head. I knew she sensed that act even though she was blind. It felt like I was gone for hundreds of years, just lost in absorbing all of Anos' experience. That guy was a genius. I thought while sensing how my death's almighty instant death and my job class the end had begun to start fusing. All I needed to do was wait. I will take some time to purely focus on the end job class since I had avoided going deep about these abilities from this job class. But I did drop hints on the job class, such as adding an instant death effect to attack spells he cast. In the anime, Momon would have gotten his hands on the wise king of the forest, should I go get the pet. I also need to work on getting the princess to be my wife. I thought while looking around Karna village, confused as to why everything was moving to how the plot would. That was weird, it was like fate was pulling me and the guild toward things. Demiurge. I cast the spell message, and instantly Demiurge answered. I will give you one task. Go to see the princess known as the Golden Princess, you will see she is special and is worthy of joining me. If she by chance refuses, which I highly doubt she would refuse to join us, leave her be. I would deal with her. Don't do anything to push her away. I said calmly. Understood, my lord, Demiurge said while looking towards Albedo in confusion, but all he saw was Albedo in deep thought. Lord Ains Ulgown should be disappointed that you didn't catch on to this person sooner. Maybe that's why he suddenly disappeared. Albedo said lightly, making Demiurge's eyes widen in shame. He gritted his teeth, feeling like a fool. He looked at his hands, not understanding just why he was so useless. He quickly ran off, scared to disgrace Ains Ulgown. Elsewhere, Shaltir stood, traveling around doing her missions. She was given the task of searching for talent holders and those with martial arts. But she paused as she suddenly got a message. Shaltir, avoid killing when possible, keep your bloodlust under control. I want as many people brought back alive for experiments. Report if you run into interesting matters. My voice sounded in her head, causing her to stiffen while looking at the sea of lifeless bodies all around her. Why yes my lord, Shaltir said in fear, scared that she might have messed up and she was caught. She looked at the many lifeless bodies all over the place, not knowing what she should do right now. Should I do the whole Nazarick invasion thing? I would need a reason for Nazarick to show itself to the world. I will use the slain theocracy. Yes, they are out right now. I thought, my eyes growing with a smirk. Albedo, I called out in a serious and heavy tone. My lord, you call for me. I'm here, please forgive me. I wasn't in control, allow me to see you, smell you, and touch you again. Albedo cried, happy to hear me talk to her once more. Join her in creating a fake Nazarick. Have it be near Karna village, but not too close. I plan to have people enter it soon. Have all of Nazarick ensure it's completed within 12 hours. Depending on how well you can complete this task will determine how many days will be taken off your punishment. I said seriously. Why yes, I will have it done in 6 hours, Albedo said with flames burning in her eyes. She ran off, ignoring the mirror she was using to spy on me. Only to remember she had the ring of Ainzul gown, and quickly used it to teleport away. Tonight should be the night which Shaltir would meet with the members of the slain theocracy. If I'm correct, fate would try to make things happen the way it went down in the anime. But with Shaltir having 22 world items, she would be immune to the world item in the enemy's hands. So, fate might do something to try and make Shaltir lose. With that in mind, I thought while summoning my mirror of heaven. I looked into the future in that mirror, allowing me to foresee all possible things I could see using that mirror. I quickly found the possible future that showed Shaltir facing the members of the slain theocracy. Knowing the location, I went on to have the mirror look towards that place before I went on to see all possible outcomes that could play out in that location. I see. I thought seeing what trump cards they would have. I thought for some time, before shrugging, since it would fall into my hands in a few hours. I was just impressed that some things shown here were not in the anime or light novel. Well, time passed and soon we joined Enfira in the woods for him to gather herbs. The main reason Enfira wanted us was so that we could protect him while he searched for herbs. So, the wise king of the forest is here. I do sense the thing, seems weak. I said calmly while looking toward where I sensed aura. I had told her to cause some chaos deep within the forest so that I could show off my strength. I'm sure to someone like you it's weak, but to us, it might be able to kill us all, Britta said with a sigh. She was right, as that wise king of the forest was level 30, above their power. Working together, they could combat someone at level 14 at best. This wise king of the forest would one-shot them. I see. I do look forward to fighting it. I said calmly, which scared everyone as they didn't want to face that monster. So, we went on to guard Enfira, although the forest grew restless. You guys should leave, Toph said calmly, confusing them, but after a moment, Lucrut's face paused. Yeah, we should leave. For some reason, the monsters in the forest here are going wild, Lucrut said, causing everyone to go on guard. Yes, it seems like the wise king of the forest is the reason behind this. It's currently coming towards me. I guess it sensed me. We should go, I said lightly, causing everyone to grow uneasy. They quickly turned to leave, but with the wise king of the forest running over here at full speed, it didn't take long for its arrival. What first answered us was a tail, which I quickly blocked as Ninya and the others couldn't even react fast enough. You who challenge thee, state thou name. The wise king of the forest's deep and scary voice filled the space, with its mighty shadow appearing before us. Horror filled the hearts of Enfira, Ninya, and the others, unable to comprehend how they would deal with this monster. My name is Momen. No one challenged you, I said calmly, facing the scary shadow with swords in my hands. Thee who has stepped into thou lands, without thou permission has challenged thou. The wise king of the forest said while slowly stepping into the lights, and there appeared the monster. It had a mighty snake-like tail, harder than most metal out there. The wise king of the forest might look like a hamster, but its eyes carried great power. Its size trumped all who stood there, making everyone feel small. This was a truly powerful existence, a life form without equals, and it now stood before us. Be it Britta, Ninya, or Peter, they lost all hope in living today. They could only hope for me to face such a powerful boss monster. And I got ready to do such that. Fall back, I will do battle with it, I said heroically, to which they nodded, while the wise king of the forest attacked. I blocked the blow, the loud sounds from our clash filling the forest. Trees fell over as we passed, nothing able to stand in the path of our mighty battle. I was sent flying back, landing before Peter and the others. The group watched in shock as I went on to block the snake-like tail shooting towards me before I shot forward. With the sound of a few clashes, they watched as the wise king of the forest was sent flying into the air, a deep cut in its stomach. It landed before them, fear and horror filling the wise king of the forest as I came falling from the sky, my sword stabbing right next to its head. "I thought you were strong," I said calmly. "I surrender," the wise king of the forest said in fear and horror while looking at how close the blade was to its face. 4 comments 0 vote. Attack on Nazarick 1/4. AN. Saturday and Sunday would be my break from writing novels. This should be the night they would die. The question is, should I bother saving them? I thought while sitting on the back of my new mount. Although I planned to have a dragon mount later, this wise king of the forest would do for now. We had left Karna village and just returned to Rantel. It was the middle of the night. Nothing worth mentioning happened. The scene that was about to take place was something that left me with a few options I could play. Toph, I shook my head towards Toph who wanted to say something, and seeing that she nodded lightly. Only the wise king of the forest noticed this act, and he shut his mouth, not daring to say a word. The only reason this guy faced me was thanks to Aura. Without Aura's skills, this hamster would have never had the balls to even breathe before me. Animals and wild beasts had sharper instincts than humans, so this hamster would have known he was fighting death. Anyway, we went to the guild to register the wise king of the forest. Britta joined the others, with Toph following me. Along the way, I told Toph a few things to ensure my plan went well. Momin is truly powerful, Enfire said lightly while entering his shop. Everyone had to agree with his words, all impressed by the level of power they could only wish to have one day. It's about time you showed up. I was getting worried something bad had happened. A blonde-haired woman with a creepy smile greeted the party inside, causing everyone but Enfire to go on guard. Something is wrong, I said lightly while sensing the life force within the alchemist shop. My words confused the woman behind the guild counter, but I didn't explain. I instead had Toph finish up with things here, while I burst outside the guild, and rushed towards the alchemist shop. Things do seem to be playing out to the canon. I could change many things, but it looks like key points in the timeline can't be avoided. But with my next action, everything would change. I thought while bursting through the walls, and cut towards the orange-haired woman, who quickly dodged. I knew I sensed something off. "Leave, you all are no match for this foe," I said while looking towards the blonde-haired woman, and the elderly sickly-looking man, using a staff to walk. "Momin, Peter is," Ninya said through tears as Peter at the moment was slowly bleeding to death. "Go, Britta, I will give you another one of my potions, just go," I said, to which Britta nodded, while they quickly left. Of course, the old man tried to stop them by creating a wall, which I cut through, while quickly blocking the blonde-haired woman's follow-up attack. Ability boost, the woman called out, using a martial art that buffed her overall abilities. Greater ability boost, the woman called out, using a martial arts which further buffed her overall ability. Flow acceleration, she said. This martial art was an art that temporarily accelerates the workings of the user's nerves, increasing one's attack speed and movement speed. The downside to it, however, is the extreme exhaustion that builds up in the user's brain. Pace of the Wind, with the final martial arts, which buffed her speed, she disappeared, moving with a speed that had reached level 35. I quickly blocked her attack while jumping backward. I was using my power to foresee the future to find the best possible movement in this battle. We clashed, trading countless blows in the heartbeat. I was forced to jump backward, thanks to the old man who buffed the woman's strength with spells. With spells and buffs stacked on top of each other, this woman's strength reached level 38. The old man didn't stop, as he summoned undead which shot towards me. I quickly jumped backward, before I spoke. Ability boost, greater ability boost. With a buff to my capability, I found my strength at level 38. With a step, I burst forward, cutting through the undead, before I clashed with the woman. With me seeing the future, and as equal in power, I was winning. So what if I was being outnumbered? The two worked together, but upon realizing they couldn't win, and I wouldn't let them flee, they had no choice but to summon their trump cards. In the air, a huge undead skeleton dragon appeared, its roar waking up the whole city. Good, now this would be a worthy battle. Our battle shall be legendary. I laughed, enjoying the thrill of battle. I moved, blocking the huge dragon claw. It was at level 36, and as a dragon, its stats were above its level, so I was sent rocketing back, rocketing through a house, although I wasn't damaged. I shot into the sky, dodging the huge claw mid-air, while throwing my sword towards the woman who wanted to flee, blocking her path. My legs kicked off the bony dragon claw which I had just dodged a moment ago, and used it to burst forward, slamming into the ground with such might, I created an explosion which forced the woman back. I swung my sword, forcing her to quickly use a martial art to avoid the blow. I took hold of the sword I had thrown, and quickly dodged the huge skeleton dragon before I went on to fight the two all by myself. The battle grew much harder for me as a second skeleton dragon was summoned. The two really wanted to flee, but I didn't give them the opportunity. All they could do was get through me to flee. As the army came, as well as adventurers were coming over, they needed an army of undead to combat them, something which the elder didn't want to do since this would use up energy he had stored up for a long time. This isn't human. Peter, who had drunk the potion Britta gave him, said lightly while looking at the battle up ahead. I mean, how couldn't he be shocked? Buildings were being destroyed like they were nothing, 2 dragons fell from the sky from time to time, creating earthquakes, and the list kept going. The battle went on for a good few minutes until the woman and the old man went on to flee after catching an opening. But they didn't escape without taking some serious damage. The woman left behind her arm, along with the elder leaving behind a leg. But while they ran off, the 2 skeleton dragons were destroyed. I stood on the mountain created by the 2 dragons, my sword stabbed into one of the heads, and looking at the army which was looking at me, as if they saw a god. While I was putting on a show, elsewhere, Shaltir was busy at work, toying with some mercenary in a cave. So, I'm thinking you've finished your preparation, Shaltir asked the mercenary's strongest warrior and also leader, someone called Brain Ungloss. Master would be happy if I bring this thing to him. I should turn him into a vampire. Shaltir thought, sizing the man up and down. She is strong, but like all of them, they are arrogant. I created this martial art for the sole goal of taking down Gazef. She is capable, but she would not be capable enough to react to this. Brian thought while watching Shaltir walking forward, and once Shaltir entered within the range of attack, he moved. God flash. Brain thought while cutting forward with speed far above someone for his level. He is only at level 28, yet even someone at level 35 would have trouble facing this attack if not ready. The reason behind this is because of the 3 unique techniques Brain created. Field, a unique martial art that Brain himself made, allowed Brain to perceive everything within a 3-meter range. In simpler words, it raises the user's accuracy and evasion to the utmost limit. Instantaneous Flash, the second unique art, allowed Brain to attack at an extreme speed. God Flash, third unique art that came from practicing instantaneous flash millions of times. This attack is so fast that even when cutting through someone, blood will not stick to the blade. When combined, it birthed a super powerful move. Yet Shaltir didn't simply block the attack, she had caught the sword in a way that made it far harder for her. Instead of Shaltir's back palm facing her, it faced Brain. I'm possible. Brain said in horror and shock. Unable to believe what he was seeing. Shaltir grinned at his words, taking pleasure in the fact this man's pride and joy were crumbling down. Go on, I will let you go at it again. Use another martial art. Shaltir said nicely. But this was just another blow to Brain, that move wasn't simply a martial arts. But that's what it looked like in her eyes. It was so weak. Brain snapped, jumping towards Shaltir while madly attacking her. But with a bored yawn, Shaltir blocked every blow with her pinky, not even needing her eyes to be opened. And this broke Brain. With a disheartened cry, Brain ran away, not daring to even look back. Shaltir grinned, finding it hard to keep her bloodlust under control. It wouldn't be bad if she simply killed the useless one, right? So, she went on a slaughter, losing track of Brain, who managed to escape. This caused her to scream in rage, for he was the most important one here. She looked at the lifeless bodies all over the place, before she snapped back to reality. No. What have I done? She screamed, tears gathering in her eyes as she realized she failed to do her task. So many people who would have been useful test subjects, yet she lost control. Lady Shaltir, there is a group of humans heading this way. A beautiful female vampire said respectfully. This was a vampire bride, but they were not the normal ones that could be found in the anime. They were created personally by Shaltir, giving them a huge buff to their capability. This allows them to be at level 100. She had a harem of them. Shaltir wasted no time, shooting toward the newcomers. She didn't kill them, instead going out of her way to mind control them to understand why they were here. It was funny how fate worked. At the end of the day, Shaltir was drawn over to the people of the slain theocracy. 3 comments 0 vote. Attack on Nazarick 2 quarters. Lord Ains. Shaltir used message, reporting something huge she came across. How couldn't she when not too far from her, she was seeing a world item? Yes, Shaltir, is everything alright? I answered while removing my armor, which was damaged in some places. I ignored the eyes of the females around me. And oddly many males who didn't care to hide the fact they were eyeing me. Of course, I had clothing under the armor, but my appearance in the cultivation outfit was just too stunning for the poor mortals. I ran across a party that is equipped with a world item, Shaltir said, to which I nodded as things were going well. Contact Albedo and ask her how fake Nazarick is coming along. I want you to draw that group towards them, avoid personally getting close to them, and instead use summons to draw them towards it. Speak with Albedo to ensure everything goes well. I said. To which Shaltir quickly accepted the order. I don't know if I'm best for this task. Shaltir thought with unease as this wasn't something she was skilled with. She took a deep breath, and quickly called Albedo. What is it, Shaltir? Albedo was flying in the sky, overlooking fake Nazarick, ensuring everything was perfect. Fake Nazarick was already built, it didn't need to be a perfect copy of the real thing, she just needed to ensure the fake Nazarick was good enough for outsiders. Shaltir went on to tell Albedo everything, causing Albedo's eyes to widen as she quickly realized why I had wanted her to build fake Nazarick. Anyways, with Albedo's help, Shaltir went on to have a monster at level 20 move in to attack the party. But to her shock, her summon was almost one-shot by the leader of the group. A handsome young man equipped with a spear. They are strong. At least that guy is strong. Shaltir said while summoning a stronger monster, and having it approach them from the location where fake Nazarick could be found. Another vampire, they seem to be summons. Quies Hazia Quintia, the fifth seed of the Black Scripture, called out. If I was there, I would have pointed out how he looked a lot like the blonde-haired girl I had fought. That was because this was her elder brother. That means we are being watched, whatever it is might not want us to get too close to its home. Could it be something working with the Catastrophe Dragon Lord? A woman with glasses who had a woman's purse asked calmly, watching the scene of their leader easily one-shot the vampire at level 48. Then let's push forward, we shall move like we are being drawn in toward a trap. The captain of the Black Scripture cried while they all stepped forward. They all moved forward, facing the incoming vampires that were only growing stronger. But this time the captain of the Black Scripture didn't work alone, he was joined by everyone, trying his best to save energy while they handled everything. But soon they came across it, a huge vampire dragon who was enraged. You dare! The vampire dragon roared, it was a level 70 summon, quickly causing them all to grow on guard as this was going to be a serious battle. But the vampire dragon paused as it got a good look at them, sizing up the gear they all had. Treasures are what it saw. Dragons had the unique power to see the value of treasures, its greed overcame it, jumping towards the old woman who was equipped with the most valuable item. But the captain of the Black Scripture moved, pushing it backward while opening the door for the others to attack. Kyrie. The captain of the Black Scripture cried out to the world item holder. She was equipped with 2 world items. I can't mind control it, it either has wild magic or another godly item. The old woman said, to which the captain of the Black Scripture nodded as he expected as much. Kyrie was equipped with a world item that allowed her to mind control even those with complete immunity to mind control. Undead had such immunities, but that didn't matter before the world item known as Downfall of Castle and Country. Then, kill it. He said calmly, he was equal to someone at level 65, for he carried the blood of the gods inside him. They attacked the vampire dragon, destroying its wings to make sure it couldn't fly, before coming in for its eyes. But the vampire dragon ran away, fleeing away at full speed. They of course ran after it, not letting the dragon get far. The dragon ran, falling over from time to time, just to get up and struggle to flee. The dragon soon made its way to what looked to be a tomb. They watched as the dragon entered the tomb, causing them to look at each other for some time, unsure if they should follow. Let me mark a checkpoint. The old woman, Kyrie said lightly while using the second world item. It was a ring that allowed Kyrie to create a checkpoint. In other words, this ring would rewind time, with only the user of this ring being the person to know what happened. It would affect the whole world, making this ring something which was extremely overpowered. The only drawback is that the ring would go backward up to 30 minutes in the past, it's been more than 30 minutes since they faced the first vampire. It could also only be used once every 70 hours, this was a world item not in the anime or novel. Once the checkpoint was created, they entered the tomb. Although they would come back if they did die, they would forget everything. The only beings who would remember everything would be those with wild magic and a holder of world-class items. How is everything? Appearing back in Nazarick, I sat down on the throne to Nazarick, with a screen that showed everything playing out. Why yes my lord. Albedo's eyes were bright, eyeing me non-stop while holding herself back from just jumping on me, too scared to endure that hell once more. Then, let's use them to test the guild, I said calmly, sitting back in my human form as I wanted to process everything not as an unfeeling undead, but as a living being. 4 females and 9 males, I said lightly, looking at everyone while creating a world item. So many undead. The group of 13 were annoyed, slaughtering the sea of low-level vampires which just kept coming non-stop. The vampire levels ranged from 20 to 60. Something which they could all easily handle, but the number was just too great, slowly tiring them down. How could such a thing be existing in this world? They were confused by just how many undead they were facing. They didn't even know they entered fake Nazarick and had been teleported to the real thing. They didn't know that there were traps which they soon stepped into. What? They cried as 3 out of the 13 members were teleported elsewhere, splitting apart from the rest of the ground. Kyrie, use it. The captain of the Black Scripture cried, only to find that Kyrie couldn't use her world item to turn time backward. Everyone's face paled before they quickly began to fight to leave this place. But they walked into more traps, and before they knew it, out of the 13 members, 2 of them stood. These 2 were the captain of the Black Scripture and the 7th seat. The 2 faces were dark, but they knew they couldn't stay here for long, so they left. But they couldn't find the exit. It was like the world had moved around. So they had to fight through the sea of undead, and the 7th seat was useful, creating illusions that were so powerful. They had the illusion of life force which drew the attention of the undead, allowing the captain of the Black Scripture to slaughter his way through. On the 2nd floor, the 3 members of the Black Scripture could be found slaughtering the zombies that were nearing them. The 10th seat, titled the Strongest Human, was at level 50. Equipped with his huge axe-like weapon, all zombies that dared to near him were slaughtered without fail. He was joined by the 5th seat, Quies Hazia Quintia, who had summoned a sea of summons, all around level 35. Lastly, the 9th seat Beaumarchais, known as the Divine Chain. Using his chain, he slaughtered seas of vampires. Although he was only at level 45, his mastery of the chain allowed him to have truly godly levels of power. On the 3rd floor, the 11th seat, known as Infinite Magic, could be seen. Her magic slaughtered the sea of ghost-type monsters on this floor. Worthy of her name, she had all types of magic she could use. Although she was only at level 47, she was no weakling. She was shielded by Cedron, the 8th seat. Kyrie was with them, and they shielded her, waiting to find a worthy enemy for her to mind control. Gegran carried this group, as his defensive capability was unmatched. Even someone at level 60 would have problems breaking through his defensive skills, much less these ghosts. On the 4th floor, the underground lake. One would find the 6th seat. A man with a huge heavy sword. At level 50, he slaughtered the sea of golems all over the place. He was joined by the 2nd seat, a man who had a childish appearance. He was known as Time Turbulence. Equipped with a rapier, the man killed the golems without problems. He was at level 45. The last person on this floor was the Divine Chant, the 4th seat. She was super effective on the 1st floor thanks to her being skilled with holy magic and similar types of magic. But now, she took the role of healing and buffing the 2, while they shielded her. On the 5th floor, Glacier. The 3rd seat, known as the 4 Great Spirits, could be seen on this floor, facing the sea of ice monsters. The 5th floor was a sea of ice and snow. Fighting through all of this while enduring the cold wasn't easy. But he was at level 49, and although fire magic wasn't his strongest, he still knew a few fire spells to keep him and his partner warm. The 12th seat, known as Heaven and Earth, was an assassin without equals. But an assassin in this world wasn't that useful, so the 4 Great Spirits had to take the role to attack, summoning the 4 powers of the 4 spirits for power. These 4 spirits were powerful undead at level 45 that he had under his control. The first was the Vermilion Bird, a firebird that was the last of its kind. Its flames kept them warm, while they made their way deeper into this world of endless cold. The second spirit was the Black Tortoise. A tortoise with unmatched defensive powers, and also with a snake-like tail that slaughtered all that came near it. It was also skilled with water magic. The Azure Dragon shot through the air, moving around at blinding speed while breathing dragon breaths down upon all of the coming monsters. Lastly, it was the White Tiger, a lightning-quick tiger that used lightning magic, slaughtering countless monsters. These 4 great spirits were all at level 45, they used to be at level 60+, but after being brought back to life, their strength dropped. But he was able to bring out bits of their former strength at a price, and he was looking for that chance to show that level of power. 3 comments 0 vote. Attack on Nazarick 3/4. I can't go on. The 7th seat said with a tired look. She fixed her glasses, looking at the captain of the Black Scripture who wasn't as tired compared to her. This was thanks to her illusion. Illusions that take control of the 5 senses of someone weren't something simple. But to create such an illusion to affect countless undead wasn't something easy even for her. That seemed to be the last of them. The captain of the Black Scripture said lightly while walking around, looking at the undead vampires that were disappearing. But the ground under them suddenly glowed, stunning the two. Before they could even react, they were teleported away. He was on high alert but paused, seeing the other members of the Black Scripture also teleporting around him, all on high alert. He let out a sigh of relief seeing as they were all alive. Although many were injured and tired, it brought him relief no one was dead. Someone is controlling where we are being teleported, Kyrie said lightly while looking at the huge ghost-like monster she managed to turn to their side. It was a level 60 monster, and it was under her mind's control. Yes, I have a feeling this is a new god. The captain of the Black Scripture said lightly, but before they could walk forward, they took the time to rest and recover their energy. This took over 1 hour, and once done, they stepped towards the opening up ahead which seemed to show hints of the sky. The gates before them opened, allowing them to step into the arena, and they were shocked as they seemed to be outside. They could see the clear night sky, with the moon and stars filling it. They wanted to quickly fly into the sky, and fly away, but they were forced to pause as a dark male fell from the sky, landing before them. With their sharp eyes, they knew this dark elf wasn't a male, although she dressed like a male. Our challenges tonight are a group of 13 foolish warriors who dare to step into the great tomb of Nazarick. They would be going up against the Supreme One, the Monarch of Life and Death, and the Overlord of the great tomb of Nazarick, Lord Ainsul Gown. She cried out while looking towards the opposite side of the group, where I stepped forward with Albedo following behind. I calmly walked over and sized the 13 members up and down, wondering just what experiment I could do on them all. They were also sizing me up, uneasy seeing as I was a skeleton. He is most likely a player. The 7th seat said in a low voice, to which everyone nodded, unease filling their eyes. Lord Ainsul Gown, we mean no disrespect, we came hunting a dragon. We meant not to enter your guild and disrespect you. The captain of the Black Scripture said stepping forward to speak with a bow, sweat covering his forehead. That vampire. It's long dead, I said while snapping my finger, and a roll of maids came walking in. Before the 13 members of the Black Scripture, a roll of the table was before us, and I sat down, welcoming them all to take a seat. I'm one who first talks before getting into battles. Now, depending on our talk would determine if you will leave my guild at all. I said calmly, to which the group uneasily looked at each other before sitting down, and watched as the maids placed food before them. What confused them was when food was also placed before me. Their eyes widened as, before their eyes, flesh slowly covered my body. It was something they had never imagined, seeing an undead coming back to life. This shocked them. I have a few questions I wish for you all to answer. I believe becoming human would better ease you all, right? I asked while putting my hair into a ponytail, a sight that shook the hearts of the females, both young and old. Why your power is great, Lord Ains. Please ask your questions, and we will answer them to the best of our abilities. The captain of the Black Scripture said, realizing they needed to leave this place no matter what. At that, I nodded while pointing at the old woman. She has 2 world items. I wish to know how such items entered this world, and although I have my guesses, I'd like to hear your knowledge on this subject, I said calmly. The air grew quiet for some time, none of them not knowing how to answer that question. But Kara slowly spoke, her words steady. Lord Ainsul Gown, I believe you're not from this world. She asked in a soft and uneasy voice that she might say something wrong. But I nodded at her words, while taking a cup of tea, and calmly drinking it. She went on to look at everyone, and seeing as no one was stopping her, she went on to talk about the event that took place hundreds of years ago. 600 years ago, the 6 great gods appeared in this world. They called themselves players and originated from a place called Yggdrasil. These players protected the humans from monsters at the time when they were on the brink of extinction. To this day, a lot of the inhabitants of the New World worship them as gods in awe of their great power. They were also the beings who spread tier magic in this world. While they may no longer exist in the present day, their legacy still exists through the country they founded, the Slain Theocracy. The 6 great gods' legacy is also preserved in the Slain Theocracy's 6 scriptures, each of whom is stated to follow the specific teachings of one of the 6 great gods and hold their faith to one of them in specific. So, 100 years later after these so-called 6 great gods appeared, the 8 greed kings appeared. I asked calmly, to which the 13 nodded although they were clearly displeased with my lack of respect towards their gods. But they went on to tell me information on the 8 greed kings. Tales of the 8 greed kings have been exaggerated by folk-tellers, calling them beings who stole the power of God and ruled the world using their absolute strength. They were described as taller than the sky with the likenesses of dragons. The 8 greed kings were said to be capable of destroying numerous countries, dominant races, and many species in an instant. As a result, they wiped out most of the powerful races like the Dragon Lords, paving the way for humans to thrive and grow in strength. Despite being successful in their quest for world domination, the Greed Kings' greed ended up pitting them against one another and created a division in their group. This eventually resulted in their demise as they perished, one by one. One could say the 8 Greed Kings lived up to the title given by the New World's inhabitants. They were the type who often fought over their own possessions and ultimately perished. In the end, the 8 Greed Kings' rule after conquering the world was rather short-lived. So, I'm guessing 100 years after the appearance of the 8 Greed Kings, other players appeared. I asked calmly, to which they nodded. Most likely, but we never came across that player. The next player we know of came 200 years ago. The 13 Heroes was led by a player, who died in battle. We have no information on a player 100 years ago. They said lightly, to which I nodded for some time while drinking my tea. Well, this is interesting. I'm guessing those fools never bothered to search for the question of how or why we came into this world. I said while sitting back, lost in thought while looking at the cup of tea. The 13 gritted their teeth, annoyed by my lack of respect. I looked at them all with a smirk. I have a question. That clothing you're wearing can mind control just about anyone. Did your kingdom by chance go around using it on others? It wouldn't make sense for the slain theocracy to have so many loyal and powerful warriors otherwise. I said calmly, to which they said nothing, for that was a top secret they were unwilling to talk about. I see, smart. That's boring. So, die. I said lightly, and before the group's shocked eyes, the world-class item began breaking apart, disappearing and only leaving behind. Well, a naked old woman. What did you do? The captain of the Black Scripture asked in a mix of rage and fear, not understanding just what had happened. I told it to die, so it died. Old lady, you should also die, you're dirtying my eyes, I said calmly, and with my words, the old lady paused before she fell lifelessly, her head hitting the table hard. Followed by her body shattering apart, turning to dust which left this world. Store the ring away, it might be useful, I said calmly, to which a maid stepped forward to take the ring. But this was something the group couldn't ignore, even while knowing this might lead to their death, they had to stop the maid. The captain of the Black Scripture turned, stabbing his spear towards me. I calmly caught the spear, while getting up. I waved the maid back, all while I was surrounded. The mind control these guys were under was impressive, allowing them to even stand before something that would clearly kill them. Well, although I could remove the mind control, I wish to see the full power of the end, I said while the aura of death spread off my body, my human body crumbling away and taking on my undead form. This skill is called Game Over. You all have 30 seconds before this skill takes effect, and you will all die. Within that time, I couldn't cast any spells. So, go ahead. I said lightly. Game Over, it was the ultimate death skill. Once the 30 seconds were up, whoever was the target of the skill would die. It didn't matter if they cast a spell to somehow defend themselves, or even had the means to avoid it. Even world items were useless before this skill. This skill was so powerful, that once you die, you are faced with the Game Over screen. Your character is dead, forcing the player to recreate a new avatar. Even if one has a spell or item that would bring them back to life, it was all pointless before this skill. Once this skill takes effect, it's game over. 5 comments 0 vote. Attack on Nazareth 4 quarters. The captain of the Black Scripture shot forward, led by the 4 great beast spirits, Quies's summons. They arrived before me, attacking me. As I easily dodged all of their attacks without even trying, I noticed time turbulence taking an opening to attack me. Overclock. He screamed, using his personally created martial arts which boosted his speed to the utmost limits. This allowed him to move so fast, that he would be seeing things in tunnel vision. With a speed level of 55, he attacked me, just for me to smoothly dodge. Divine Chant used the opening, shining down holy light from the heavens to cover the whole battlefield, but I ignored it as I was immune to this level of holy light. The illusions were pointless before me as I saw through them, their attacks all useless as I smoothly avoided all their attacks with moves that grew more and more refined with every passing second. I wasn't using any special abilities, I was simply trying to improve my combat capability mid-combat. I learned a lot during my fight with the woman and the two skeleton dragons. Remember, the higher my level the faster I could learn and master stuff. So, something that took these humans years to master took me a few minutes to master. This only was faster thanks to using my power to see the future and seeing the best movement I could make. I wasn't simply watching my future self, for I was understanding how every small movement played out to support the next 50 moves. It was like playing chess, every movement should be made with victory in mind while also ensuring you don't get defeated. In chess, there are countless moves you can make. The same for in battle. There are countless moves you can make, but out of those countless moves, there is one perfect move that ensures combat victory. At least that's how I saw it. In battle, there were so many things that went into it, similar to chess. In chess, you can trick your opponent with false openings, the same for martial arts. In chess, you can go on a full attack while ignoring defense, the same for martial arts. In chess, you can play stupid moves, the same for martial arts. Even someone like Anos doesn't make perfect moves in battle, so even with his experience and knowledge, I was trying to build upon it. I had seen the members of the Black Scripture all fight, so I knew their skills, I just didn't know how good they were when working together. And they were monsters. Honestly, they could defeat even someone at level 90 while working together, which was impressive. But that was nothing to me, and yes, I currently had my capability limited to level 80 to make this interesting, or else the moment they looked at me, they would die. Well, not all of them would die, for they had strong wills thanks to the mind control. Remember, any weak soul who looks at me would die if I had the skill on. But I had it turned off, or else by simply walking through cities, millions would die without me doing anything. By simply drawing their attention they would die. The strength of the will also needs to be strong the stronger I get. For now, someone at level 45 can look at me without dropping dead. Although they would be swallowed in overwhelming fear. Well, enough of the talking. Well, is that everything? I asked while looking at all 12 of them, attacking me with everything they had since the 30 seconds was almost up. They grew uneasy, their instinct telling them they were going to die as the 30 seconds were almost up. To start a battle with death, now behold the power of death. I called out, the power of death exploding off my being. Everything around me just dying, even the atoms that created matter died. Even something like energy which couldn't be destroyed died, as if this was the end of time, and everything returned to the nothingness it once belonged. I floated in the air, for even gravity had died. Nothing remained. For a good few meters around me, there was nothing. A void without space or time, nothingness existed around me, for all that could exist around me was dead. But the world healed, and space-time soon filled up the void, and I appeared back in reality. Albedo stood far away along with the maids, who were all looking at me with wide eyes, for this was the first time they ever saw my power. I simply ignored them, looking at the damage my power had done while in deep thought. Although I didn't get the full power of instant death, with the skill game over, I seemed to mimic the first and second seal of instant death. I thought going through my memory of the information I had on instant death. Yes, information dumps to fill up the word count. Instant death is an ability from the anime called instant death. It was used by the MC who was called Yogiri Takatu. Instant death is Yogiri's ability to kill anything with a single thought. It has been noted that what phenomena occur after he targets an object to kill it is dependent on Yogiri's cognition of death. For example, if a door's purpose is to block the way into another room, it only becomes logical that once the door dies, it will allow him to cross the entrance. However, this is something that Yogiri does not actively do when using his ability, as it occurs by itself. Despite the name of the ability, it is not necessarily instantaneous if Yogiri decides to not make it so, as there is some leeway as to when his targets can die, as long as they do die eventually. Seemingly connected to the nature of instant death, Yogiri's perception of the world shows him any hostility directed at him or his allies, or just plain hazards, and he uses that to track enemies he would not normally be capable of detecting, predict their movements, thought patterns, or automatically retaliate with the activation of instant death. Now, this ability comes with 4 extra abilities. 1. Automatic defenses. Even if the opponent is faster than Yogiri can physically react, his powers activate automatically to retaliate before any harm is done to him. 2. Partial killing. Yogiri can kill specific limbs or the organs of his targets if he wants, such as their senses, arms, legs, fingers, hands, etc. Even if you cut off the affected limb and try to heal it, said limb will still be affected by his ability, and thus won't ever function again, no matter what the target does. 3. Immortality negation. Yogiri is not only capable of killing anything, but he can also completely negate different types of immortality, such as resurrection, regeneration, people who are already dead, and even targets to whom the concept of death doesn't apply. Furthermore, even if the enemy resides in a different plane and uses avatars to attack Yogiri, he can reach the true form by killing said avatars. 4. Resistance immunity negation. Yogiri's power is capable of completely bypassing immunity and resistance towards instant death abilities. No matter how much defenses or resistance to instant death a person has, it is all meaningless in front of Yogiri. Now, you can see why I wanted instant death. The guy was overpowered. But there was something Yogiri did to weaken himself. Due to wanting to be as human as possible, Yogiri constantly restrains his power with gates that are locked within his mind. By imagining them opening, he can release more of his powers one by one. First gate. When this gate is active, Yogiri becomes capable of killing anything, can sense killing intent, and can foresee any incoming danger that might harm him. This is the standard phase that is usually active at all times. I had this gate power, but it was a Walmart version. Second gate. When this gate is active, in addition to the powers from the first phase, Yogiri's ability can now kill targets on a more abstract semantic level. Yogiri has used this phrase to kill his own momentum, falling energy, gravity itself, radioactive photons, wind, noise, and heat. Additionally, he can use this power through the use of other people as a medium, being able to kill anything that his targets have ever seen from their memories, as well as automatically killing anyone who tries to kill a certain person he has marked with this power, essentially protecting them. Final phase. This is Yogiri's default state before he puts any gate or restriction on his power. When the third gate is active, in addition to the powers from previous phases, Yogiri's ability can now kill the associations between two things. Yogiri has used it to kill the connection, association, relationship between a target. Simply put, this final phase is capable of killing the repercussions and associations that would happen after the target is killed. I wish I had the final phase. With the final phase, I would have had the power to kill anything. Imagine me fighting someone who was extremely overpowered just to kill the connection between himself and his power. But I knew a way I could do that. With Death's Almighty, I could affect the fate of things, such as the connection between others. With me only having the first gate, instant death, I could kill just about anyone and everyone, completely ignoring their resistance and immunity unless they have something capable enough to resist. Adding game over, I could recreate the second gate. If I could combine all of them, on top of Anno's knowledge. I knew for sure that recreating the final phase wouldn't be hard. All I needed to do was wait to see the fusion of instant death, Death's Almighty, the end. Now, what would happen when I use the reverse curse technique on this, multiplying death with death to birth life? Would I be able to birth anything I want? Just the thought of that made me boil, unable to wait and see what the future awaited me. 3 comments 0 vote.